Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Welcome back into First and 12 here on KSL News Radio. Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry with you. It's interesting, the Big 12 Conference, we've talked about it here on the show quite a bit. For just whatever reason, this league gets overlooked. We were talking in the commercial break about teams like even TCU, how they had that amazing performance on Labor Day night, but it just gets erased from everyone's memory, and no one's talking about TCU. Alex, there was an interesting rating or ranking that was put out by ESPN's Bill Connelly, and he created the S&P Plus ratings. And that S&P Plus rating, it's an advanced metric to kind of forecast the strength of teams and kind of also factor in the history, how they've done recruiting-wise the last 3 or 4 years, and then on-the-field success the last 3 or 4 seasons as well. He put out a rating on S&P based on his data. If it was just solely focused on what has taken place in 2025 on the field, no factoring in brands, history, all that stuff.
What weights more in these rankings? Is it the offensive production? Is it combined with defensive production? Is it your strength of your opponent? How do they come up with this?
I kind of compare it to basketball with Ken Pom, how you just dominate teams, the sheer dominance.
So you're talking about like time of possession goes into it, point totals, yardage totals, and how much you hold teams to. So it's basically just like all numbers, advanced numbers on your team puts your ranking there. And then, of course, obviously wins and losses are the thing that are put at the premium. So.
Yeah, you get an offensive rating, you get a defensive rating, and a special team. So really just kind of complete football teams. And what's interesting is that 4 of the top 10 teams in college football, based on this, if it's just solely based on what's happening on the field this year, 4 teams would be from the Big 12, and the number 1 team in the country is Texas Tech.
That's wild. Well, from a numbers standpoint, you can't argue with the fact that they put up, what is it, 57.5 points a game so far this year.
Yes.
Almost 600 yards a game this year. They're beating the tar out of everybody. And on top of that, they are mightily improved on defense. I actually had this discussion yesterday with somebody. It was like, this is the difference of this Texas Tech team versus the ones that you and I watched growing up, who were insane on offense. Like, listen, Texas Tech was churning out insane quarterbacks. They were churning out massive amounts of points every week. They were in those conversations of 45 to 50 points a game all year long because Mike Leach would bring that slinging offense, and they loved that. You know, you think of your Patrick Mahomes throwing for 700 yards against Baker Mayfield who threw for 600, right? I mean, you think about those types of performances. Texas Tech never had the dogs on defense to be able to make themselves big enough. And now they have like one of the, if not the best defensive line in the country. That's unheard of down in Texas, that Texas Tech would win the trenches against anybody, but that's where they spent their money, and it's paying off right there. And I think that's the difference of a team who's going to go far. If Texas Tech is what we think they are, they're going to give Utah a run for their money on Saturday. I don't think they're going to win, but I do think that Texas Tech is good enough to compete in the trenches against a Utah team that they never had business competing against in those trenches before.
And other top 10 teams in this S&P Plus ranking, if it was just based solely on what's happened on the field this year, 4 would be BYU.
That's wild.
8 would be Utah, and 10 would be TCU. Imagine the view of this league if you had the rankings looking like that. We wouldn't be talking about, well, the Big 12 is just, an afterthought league compared to the Big 10 and the SEC. No, this league has got some good teams. It's just for whatever reason, I think people just look at these teams like Tech, because you're right. That's how I've always viewed Texas Tech. Great offenses, B.J. Simons, Kingsbury, Graham Harrell.
Yeah.
We could go on and on. But they never did it on defense. And then BYU, what have they really done nationally in the last 15 years? Like, we know firsthand that they've been really solid and they always win, but they haven't broke through.
Yeah.
Whereas Utah, they've had a lot of success consistently, haven't got to a playoff yet. And then TCU, they always just get labeled as, well, they got to the title, but they got exposed.
So the thing that's interesting about this is looking at it from the standpoint of being blind to everything that happened before 3 weeks ago, basically.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what you're looking at. You go, and everybody, when you talk about rankings, what's the big complaint? I mean, Notre Dame is 0-2 and they're 24th of the country. That's like a perfect, okay, what are we doing here? Because you don't really know. Yeah, but they lost to a Miami team who it's early, but we think they're a lot better than maybe we thought they were. And then they lost to a Texas A&M team who was also ranked. But Texas A&M moved up 15 spots after beating a Notre Dame team that moved down 16 spots. So we don't. Why is that version of the rankings more important than this one? If we just looked at it and said, all right, let's put the rankings together based off of just right now, and I don't care what your brand is. And guess what? Every once in a while, Oregon, Penn State, USC, who else? Oklahoma, Florida State, Nebraska. These are all big name teams that are, considered blue bloods. Oklahoma and Nebraska certainly are in that conversation. USC. Hey, even you USC fans, I could look at and go, look, we didn't like you before the season, but you're playing well so far. I don't think anybody looks at USC and goes, no, they're actually garbage right now. You've got an 0-3 team in LA and you've got a 3-0 team in LA. It's pretty easy to see which one's better than the other. But I don't know. No ranking is perfect, but if you were just doing it based off of right now, if you had memory of a goldfish and just went to 3 weeks back, this would be the reality of rankings, and I don't hate it because all the teams who are in the SEC and the Big Ten who already have a loss or who have been struggling, Texas, like everybody's looking at Texas and going, why are they still where they're at? What did they move down to 8th after that not good performance against UTEP? And Arch Manning might not be a very good quarterback. We don't really know. The reality is that team shouldn't be a top 10 team. They don't feel like it. Everyone knows they don't feel like it, but they go, yeah, but they had them there in the preseason poll. But why were they there in the preseason poll?
And they played Ohio State. And
no reason.
And they have a famous quarterback. And I thought this ranking, again, it was all just based solely on this year, but I thought it was just fascinating that if you truly eliminate preseason hype and expectations and just focus on the data, focus on the dominance from these teams, it's pretty impressive. I thought it was also noteworthy, too. Number 15, Mississippi State, who beat Arizona State, and everyone plummeted Arizona State out of the rankings after going on the road in the SEC and losing a game at the final play of the game. Mississippi State's pretty good, but no one's talking about them because in the preseason they were picked as the last place SEC team. So by a byproduct of that, Arizona State plummets out of the rankings because they lost to the last place SEC team. And we all know how that works. The media sometimes gets it wrong, as was the case with ASU last year.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating that when you do eliminate the preseason hype and just focus on the data of what's happening on the field, that's a pretty cool ranking, and it's balanced across the country and shows
lots of different
there's
conferences.
a lot more parity in this sport than we realize.
Well, but then also ask yourself, do you feel like Texas Tech is the number one team in the country? I can't actually say no to that. But I don't feel
I think
like
they could win a playoff game.
But I don't feel like BYU is the number 4 team in the country. Is Utah
Their defense is elite, though.
Their defense is absolutely elite.
They will travel. They'll show up to any game. Like BYU's defense can go blow for blow. Offensively, yes, I have my reservations still.
And that's the only question, right? Yeah. So if you're looking at this ranking, if BYU would have had a type of game against Stanford that they did against Portland State, you'd probably see them right behind Texas Tech.
But I will say, BYU's and this factors into all this. BYU's win over Stanford looked a little bit better after Stanford actually beat Boston College and was a huge underdog, and they put up 30 points. So BYU, I don't know if they're number 4 good, but I think Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, TCU, could they all make the playoff and contend in a playoff game? Absolutely.
Well, and I think Utah is number 8 good.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, they've moved up 4 spots this week, 5 spots the week before. People are starting to go, oh, okay, hold on a minute. I think Utah feels like they're number 8 good, but why not? These teams are performing right now. That's the difference. These teams are performing.
Yes.
If your team isn't performing, even if you're getting wins, and Texas lost to Ohio State, I get it. You're not going to be on this list if they've already done that. But they also have been performing terribly. Like, their quarterback looks not good. Mm-hmm. He definitely is not a Heisman Trophy winner. So that is the part where you go, just from an eye test perspective over the last few weeks, and from a numbers perspective, where do these teams match up? Pretty interesting to see BYU at 4, Texas Tech at 1, Utah at 8. Who are the other Big 12 teams in this? TCU at 10. Yeah, that's crazy. And why not? Why not? Those are all teams that right now we look at and we go, all right, they could be pretty darn good. Let's take another break. We'll come back. We've got more to go on the program. When we return to our 1st and 12 on a Tuesday, going to have our sound roundup. Sound from across the conference from over the weekend of wins and losses and boos and cheers across the entire thing here. So stay right here, dialed in with us. Mitch, Harper, Alex, Kirry on KSL News Radio. It's 1st and 12.